In today's episode of Esports Demystified, we're joined by Boltzy, a talented, aspiring Valorant player. Boltzy has experienced professional esports Team Serenity. Currently, Boltzy is a free agent and developing his profile as a player. Today, we want to explore what life looks like for an up-and-coming EAthlete, what options are out there for people who have talent and a desire to play at the highest levels. Do you just have to navigate the esports scene by grinding your way through it? Or is it a matter of finding the right pathway and the right steps for you? Boltzy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Mate, I want to ask, because Valorant is such a new game, and that's your game, and your title that you're in. Is it the first title that you've been kind of part of, or did this journey start a lot earlier than this?
I've been playing video games and sports since I was like a child. So it all started back when I played like Call of Duty when I was like 8 to like 11. And then my dad got a new job and they made him get a desktop, and that's when I started playing Counter-Strike. And eventually, after playing so many like hundreds of hours of Counter-Strike pugs and not being able to find a team because of my age, I was just like, I'm just gonna go back to Call of Duty. And I played Call of Duty. I won some money, and after that, Fortnite came out, and that was on the, like I put like competing to the side to just have fun with friends. And eventually, obviously, the competitor in me like somehow made that game competitive, and I played that for about a year competitively. And then when Project A was announced, I made the decision that I missed Counter-Strike and I wanted to play another FPS game like when it came out. So that's how I started playing Valorant.
Yeah, awesome. And just off camera, you were telling us at 11 you were trying to get recruited into CSGO teams as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I figured with playing enough pugs, you'll meet a couple of people and maybe you could get onto the teams, but apparently my voice was an issue.
So that is that actually what the team said to you? No, you can't join because
Uh,
you're too
Not
young, or
necessarily, but yeah, they basically said because I was young and there were like risks. I wasn't of age to compete in like officials. So those are
okay,
all limitations to like the team's growth, obviously. So not many
yeah.
people wanted to take that risk.
Do you think you were good enough already?
To play at like I'd probably say like the ESEA advanced level, yeah. If I probably kept going with the game, I think I could have went pro by like now or like 15 or something.
Okay, interesting. And so even back then at 11, you were already kind of had this idea in your head that professional esports was for you. That was what you wanted to do.
Not necessarily. I mean, like back then, obviously the goal was to go play collegiate, well, for me, baseball, and possibly go to the MLB. But obviously, that was every young kid's dream. But when I found out that there was like a competing side to video games, I'm like, oh wow, I'm spending all my time playing them anyway. Why not? And that's how like it kind of happened.
Yeah, okay, interesting. And when did that, I guess, so when did the kind of, I guess, the real dream kick in? Because I'm thinking you're what, you're 17, 16 now?
16. I turned 17 in 2 days actually.
Okay. And so at 11, I mean, that would have been pretty early in the esports world, right? That in terms of players starting
Yeah.
to really get a name, contract, the conversation of contracts in the open and things like that. So when did your dream really kick in? When did it go like, that's what I'm going to try and do?
Project A, for sure.
Okay.
I I never took it like obviously I took everything serious, but when I quit Fortnite for Project A, it was more of a like, all right, I mess around in Fortnite too much. Let me like find a game where I can actually dial in and like become a pro because it's obviously what I decided I wanted to do. And here I am.
Cool. And it's always good to get insight on the journey of players. And one thing I'm really curious. So when you said that you had that dream, and then you probably had like a lot of experience in between, from the moment you were 11 to 16. Is there one experience in terms of esport or one game that you played in a competition that really stayed in your mind as being like one really good memory that you have of your journey?
Uh yeah, Call of Duty. When I won my first like GB pug or whatever with my team. It was a 5v5 search and destroy for a couple $100 and we won that. And I've I was younger, so obviously I've never touched that kind of money before, unless it was like a gift or something. So like to be able to make that on my own, it felt pretty good, and I still remember that to this day.
Cool. So you had like this. I mean, I remember when I did my first Counter-Strike competition, and I lost most of my game. I was really bad, but I won one of them, and it was like a really intense joy moment of that feeling. And I still remember some of the frag that I did. Um, so yeah, it's interesting to always experience those like emotion in esports.
Yeah.
So do you do you always had that dream as becoming an esports player? Like, is that your first goal, your main goal right now?
Main goal right now, yeah. And then after obviously reality kicks in, I have to focus on actually being able to support myself long term once I graduate high school and stuff. So if I can do that through esports, that'll be great. If not, I kind of got to move on with life. I can't really dwell on it.
Oh yeah, is there? I mean, what really in my case when I was planning to go and I told my parents I want to become esports pro. One of their worry was that actually I couldn't make. Actually, my parents didn't even know about esports, so they were like, "What is this thing you're talking about?" And never got really interested into learning more about it. And they just said, "No, you will not play video games for a living. That's like definite." Um, I wonder for your parents, how was the conversation? How did the conversation go, and what are their perspectives on the matter?
So like I said, they're big business people, so I kind of like pitched it to them in a way. Um, so it first started out with me like introducing to them like the brand of esports, like big people like Shroud, Simple, and like his big contract with Navi right now. And I'm like, once you get to like a certain status, it's like you're the big high almighty, like they'll pay you whatever the hell you want. And so it started with that, and then my dad was the one who showed like more interest off start. So I like kind of like leaned off of talking to my mom about it, and like I just like she knew of it and what game I played. But my dad's really the one who like looked into it heavily. So like he's known all the orgs I've talked with. He was the one who read over my contract, and he knows about like Cloud9 and all these different orgs, Navi and stuff like that. And he watches Counter Strike and Valorant every day now. So
It's interesting. So my background in sport, I mean, I worked with a lot of parents and talked to a lot of parents, and you'd get very different types of parents. You get one similar to by the dad, where they didn't really have any prior knowledge, but they see kind of the passion that their child has, and they get involved, and it's fairly positive. They do their own research, they figure it out, and then there's parents who are blind. You know, they think their kid's going to be literally simple, just because they're playing games. And then you got the parents a little bit more on Luke's side that are really hesitant to that. You have spoken to us though before that you've got kind of a timeline with your parents, an agreement in place that if things aren't taking off, that you'll move on. Can you tell us a little bit more about that conversation?
so like I said, they are business people, and my dad owns his own business, and my grandma owns her own as well. She's like 40 years strong already at hers. So the agreement was, well, in her will, it's always been like when I turn 18, I get that signed over to me because I'm like the only person that's ever like shown interest to take care of it after she retires. So she's getting to the point where she's like rushing me to like get the sign it over to like so she can hurry up and retire because she's made her fair share of money. She just wants to like sell her house, downgrade, and just relax the rest of her life. So that being said, I turn 18 next April, so I have to like start preparing for that to a certain extent. So once I get like halfway through, I have to like go to the school or something. It's a 3 month school to get my license to be able to do accounting and like payroll and stuff like that,
Yep.
and sign off on insurance contracts and stuff and brand deals for the business. So
Yeah, interesting. And you think what would, you know, if you had a choice right now, obviously esports is the direction you want. how big of a contract do you need for that to be kind of that's now the direction you're going in, and the business can be put to the side?
I think anything upward, like any right now, Valorant contracts, they got really inflated very quickly. Due to so many people switching from Counter-Strike, and you obviously know the franchising in Counter-Strike made the contracts go boom basically. Like Simple right now, they released that he's making 55 grand a month. Like that is absurd. That's someone's salary in a year.
Yeah.
So probably I'd say like minimum salary of like 3 grand a month for an org. And obviously I can do the business on the side. It's just gonna be like that period where I have to go to school that's gonna take away from gaming. Other than that, I have people to do everything. Like she had my grandma, she doesn't really go to work anymore. She just kind of does the payroll and stuff like that. So it'd just be like babysitting the business basically. So it's not that hard. I could definitely still do gaming if I'm making minimum, but the goal is to be like a top tier 1 pro to be making good money, hopefully.
When did you realize you had a talent? This is a question I like to ask people, especially when people are a little bit younger. They're not, they have the dream, but the ability doesn't usually align with that dream. You obviously have talent, and I know you've had some experience with Team Serenity. I've seen a lot of I've watched a lot of your videos researching this, and it's quite obvious. But when did you realize that you had some ability to do this?
Probably I'd say Project A again. I mean, I obviously was good at other games, and I found some kind of success in other games, but there was like nothing where it felt effortless, if that makes sense. Like in Call of Duty, when I played matches and stuff, like I could drop a nuke once every 2 games or something, but like I'd actually like have to try for it. And in Counter-Strike, I would like be sweating bullets when I played matches as well. Like it was a really try hard experience for those games. But when I came to Project A, it was just like I've never like been able to aim so effortlessly. And that's when I was told like all of the big pros, they don't try to aim, they kind of just do it. And I was like, that makes more sense now. Like why I don't have to try to aim anymore. So like it's just like really relaxed. So I guess you could say Project A definitely. I felt a change in my gameplay and overall performance.
Okay. Did you ever have a mentor or a coach along this journey?
Yeah, actually. After if you go back to like I want to say November, December when the first strike qualifier was out, I played a team called Mamba Mode Gaming, and I was top 5 in stats in that tournament, like overall. Like obviously I only played 1 series, but at the time they were like considered a tier 1 team because of their ranking in North America. And I dropped absurd stats versus them, like over a 1 point something KD and 300 ACS, which in Valorant is really good, with like above 200 ADR for Sova, which is amazing. Um, and after that, I went on to join their academy team because I wasn't old enough to compete yet. Like the age wasn't for sure whether Rye was gonna make it 16 or 17. So no brink of tier 1 team is gonna be like, yo, do you want to join us to play with us when they don't even know? So they asked me to join their academy team and build a new academy team with one of my friends, Frosty. He's currently on Recon 5, if you know that org. But yeah, once I joined Mamba Mode Gaming, the main team guys, Zach, Chase, and Screwface are like really good friends of mine now. Zach was really the one though, like after practice, he would like stay after and like VOD review with me and do a whole bunch of other stuff. Every scrim they had versus like big teams like Cloud9, who else? Like Nbox, NRG, any team they played against in scrims, he would send me like the link to watch it, so I could study the gameplay and how they played. Because obviously he's an IGL, I'm an IGL, so I got to learn a lot during that time period. And then once I left Mamba Mode Gaming, he like stuck with me after that, which has really been really good for me.
Cool. And one more question on the support that you got in your journey. So you mentioned that you had support from other players that helped you in understanding more of the game. I'm curious if you have any support from any organization or any other person to guide you through your career, because it seems that you're looking for a team, right? So like that process, do you have anyone helping you out and kind of following the like guiding you through the pathway to get there?
Kind of, not really. Every offer I've gotten, I've obtained like just them reaching out to me, like they want to play with me from my previous performances and teams. And but there is a organization called Carter Pulse, and that's like who does all my negotiation stuff and my contracts, and they reach out to the bigger tier one orgs about me and stuff like that. Uh they've gotten me sponsorship deals and like discounts with certain places and stuff. So I think they've helped a lot to a certain extent.
Cool. And yeah, that's cool. I will come to that after. Just one last question on this. I so I know that you're currently looking for a team and then you're trying to make it so you can support yourself using the game salary, the salary you get from the esport team before April next year. How do you feel that you're in a good place right now? You know what you need to do to get into the team, or you are still a little bit lost in that process?
Um, I don't think I've ever necessarily been. I mean, uh, my first major performance, like I said earlier, I absolutely killed. Like, that was like a really, really good stepping stone for me. It got me a lot of connections with a lot of already tier one players. A lot of them follow me on Twitter, like I play with them in ranked and pugs and stuff like that. So I think I have a good start for my age. But I do think after a certain amount of time, these tier one orgs, like after the whole match fixing situation gets dealt with, and some orgs like wake up and smell the coffee, the tier two Valorant has a lot of talent. It'll be a lot easier for me to actually make the transition.
Cool. And in that process, so you said that you need to reach out to the org. How does that look like for a player? Is that like you just messaging them and putting your name out there, or do they actually come to you before you start talking to them?
There's a couple of different ways it goes about. I've actually been through all three recently. One, you either have a relationship with the coach and he knows who you are and he's interested. And when they are looking for a player, they'll hit you up or whatever, and you just obviously go about that way. Or two, you have uh, another team. I have three friends that are currently on the roster and have been on the roster. And I also know their coach now, so that's another way. It's either player connections, coach connections, or like if the org doesn't know you at all, you basically just send them like, hey, how you doing? Hope all is well. I played for so and so. Here's my resume and my stat sheet, or like the link to like your VLR or your Spike GG. And when they're looking for a player, those are like the kind of messages they go for. They check their request and they go through like those, hey, how are you doing messages, because obviously most of the time those are aspiring players. So that's a good way to go through it.
Oh, good to know. It seems that like networking is really important in that situation to be able to know the people and get your name out there.
Yeah, it's massive.
Cool. And so on Liquipedia, we saw that you recently were part of Team Serenity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it. How long did that experience last, and how was it? And also, if you can tell us what you learned from being part of this organization, not really Team Serenity, but part of a team organization.
Um, it didn't last very long, like officially, but I built that roster for Serenity with Trisk, who's currently on the roster. So that was like a month-long process of building and negotiation and stuff like that. It took a decent amount of time, honestly. And then when we did sign, things weren't going well. Performance-wise, we were losing to teams that they felt as though we shouldn't be losing to. And it came at a time period where things at home weren't really good for me because I was going through some issues at school, which led to issues with my parents, obviously, because they want me to do good in school as well. So that week or so that I was going through that, it was like a big tournament period. and my IGLing is really off. Like I was getting red really well, or easily, and I wasn't really problem solving very well. So they felt as though it was best if we just parted ways with each other, and they looked for someone else, which I'm not even sure if they've found one yet. But yeah, that's how that kind of happened.
Okay. Oh, that's it's interesting because I think like one of the important thing that we see and that we talk through with our coaches at Battle Esport is how the duration of players being inside an organization and also treating the player correctly even when they're going through like like hard time, as you mentioned, you were going through like some difficult time with school and your parents, and that could impact your performance. Do you feel that there are many teams in esports, and you might not know this because I mean you're like at the like beginning of your journey within esport, but if you do know, maybe you do have an opinion on it. Do you feel that a lot of teams are looking at players in a sense where they, instead of taking an approach long term where you take care of the player until they get to a point where they are really really good, do you feel that teams are more looking at short-term success than long-term success at the moment?
There's actually a good variety of that in Valorant. Being a professional player, you hear a lot. But two orgs I can point out that do this very well, and like nothing bad about what they do. I think it's actually really good to have these different approaches in Valorant. Immortals is one where they, regardless of how they're doing, they always looking for fresh talent out of tier two, like steals, I guess you could say. The first one, the first two being Asuna and Dicey, which they ended up selling off to 100 Thieves that made their org a ton of money. And now the next person they've picked up is Rossi. He's actually from New Jersey, like I am. He's a really cool kid and really good at the game. But they found him, and he's been IGLing for them. And with the way he's been playing, stats wise and calling wise, I think they see him staying long term, and they'll probably find new talent for someone else on that roster. But another org that likes to do things for a process is Complexity. Um, they've had a core three, at least three players from their main team, like the original one. Ohai, Jonah P, and AGM have been there from the start, and they've really like gave these players a process and like a long time period to become good as a team. And with Valen and J Crow being their newest additions, I think their current team is going to go really far, thanks to the time that Complexity let them have. Unlike other orgs like NRG when they first started, they were just nonstop filtering out players, filtering out players, and not giving anyone and really time to develop as a team. So I think Complexity does well with that, as well as Immortals, but they do it obviously in a different time period, like you said.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about having some struggles at the time. Do you think all the the fact that school was tough at the time, your performance in game wasn't up to your normal standard? Do you think all these things were linked?
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
as an IGL, you use a lot of brain power, I guess you could say.
Mm.
So going in a match day for 3 days straight, I had three essays to write, so I was like brain dead by the time I got into the match.
Yeah.
My performance, like on statistically, it was never bad. I've always been up to par in every match, but IGLing, like my calling, is just
Yeah.
simply what this was a decider for me being released from Serenity. And like I said, it's really hard to IGL. It's like I guess you could say it's trying to be a firefighter and put out a fire without any equipment. Like
Yeah.
it's impossible. It's like going writing these essays from 7 a.m. to noon, and then leaving school early to play a match at 1 p.m. EST. It's just like really tiring. And if we won our first couple of matches or whatever, we're going to like 6, 7 EST. And by that time, I just like my brain just turns off. Like I
Yeah.
don't have anything else.
It's interesting. I the reason I asked that question is because when I was still working with high level athletes in around the same age as you as well, between the ages of 12 through to 17, often a good player would have, maybe a month where they just couldn't perform. They would lose to players they shouldn't lose to. They would struggle at training, and it could be caused from anything. It could be caused from a relationship breakdown outside of their sport or their hobby. School's been tough or anything like that. And I think that's, the most important time for someone to step in and kind of mentor that player and help them through that. Did you feel that when you're going through this process, who was kind of your supporter or your mentor to help you through to get back to that performance level?
My older sister for sure. She has a degree in journalism, so when I needed these essays done, I would just send her the topic, and she would like give me a kind of like a guideline, like, here, just write about this, this, and this in this order, and you should be good. And when she started doing that is when, like, it was after I left Serenity, but that's when like my performances started to increase more,
Yep.
because I can write effortlessly, but it was just like the brainstorming part that would take a lot out of me. She would save me like 2 to 3 hours, and that was like massive when it came to being able to play the game long term in the day.
Yeah, awesome. No, I think it's really important to highlight that and make sure that people who might be looking at your journey and going, oh, I really want to be as good as this guy, that they need to make sure they've got the right support network, because this journey is tough. It's very, very tough to be a high performer in any case, and you need the right supporters. I wanted to kind of jump into you as a player a little bit and ask the questions around, what do you think your biggest strength is as a player?
My game sense. I don't really lose clutches. On statistically on paper, I lose a lot of clutches because those are, I don't know why they still add these to their stat sheets. I think it should be changed on the website, honestly, because it's pretty stupid. Nobody's gonna win a 1v4 or 1v5. I think those scenarios should just be like eliminated completely. But there's a few clips on my Twitter where I'm in like a 1v3 or 1v2 and I just make the right play nonstop and I win it. So I think game sense is a really big strength of mine. I'm able to read IGOs well, and uh I guess you could say counter strat them.
And vice versa question, what do you think your biggest weakness is, or something that you're trying to work on to develop as a player?
My pistol aim. I lose my team a lot of pistols. Unless I use a classic, I can't really hit a shot with a pistol. I don't know. The USP in this game feels really clunky, and the deagle is also awful at 145 from long range is awful. Like, if I hit that headshot from 30 meters away, I should be getting a kill. So I think pistol aim is definitely my biggest weakness. If I could improve on that, I think I'd probably be one of the better rounded IGLs because I have really good rifle aim and I can primary or secondary up. So
Yeah, yeah. And what do you do on a daily basis to improve those weaknesses? How do you approach that?
in game deathmatch, they're in the range. For pistols, I use the range more often because I don't want people with rifles killing me while I have a pistol. It's really annoying, honestly, to deathmatch with a pistol and have to go against rifles nonstop. So I go in the range and I put the bots on a hard difficulty and I just like hit the flicks with the deagle and the USP. And then for my rifle aim, I just do deathmatch a lot.
Cool. Yeah, I can totally relate to deathmatch. Pistol, probably not at your level, but I got killed quite a lot, and that got me angry. um, I just want to jump in just before you talked about Pulse. I think that's the name of the company that's managing your contract and helping you out with the contacting the tier one org. I was wondering if for anyone that is not aware that there are those kind of organization out there, could you just tell us a little bit about your journey on how you got to know them and what they are doing a little bit for you in your career?
Three of my ex teammates worked with them before I did. Temperature, Alexander, who were both on Evil Geniuses, and then Tem, who is currently an FA. And when we were about to, me and Tem were about to sign to Serenity, he was like, yo, hit up Mr. Esport. This is the guy you want to talk to about this, and I'll plug you with him. And that's basically how it happened.
Cool. And can you tell us a little bit how, like, what are the service they're offering? Obviously, like, if you can say it, but what
Um,
what are the things that they did for you that really you appreciated that worked well?
it's a well-oiled machine, I guess you could say. They have doctors to help you, like if you have wrist issues, he'll send you like workouts and ways to relax the muscle and stretch them and stuff like that, as well as they also have lawyers, a team of lawyers to read over contracts and send you like the docu-signs back and stuff like that, so you can get that done and sign your contract. They read it over and they basically revise the contract. Like, let's say I wanted a 6-month contract with no buyout, but on the contract it says 6 months with a $3,000 buyout. They'll put like a little highlight under it, like, yo, he doesn't want to buy out. Can we lower this or eliminate it completely? And so and stuff like that. And as well as they have marketing people that help you obtain sponsorships from like gaming companies like GameSense and glasses companies and stuff like that.
I see. And one last question on that topic. I'm trying to make the analogy to, when you go to high school and then you see an advisor to advise you on your career and say, oh, if you want to become, in my case, it was you want to become software engineer, the best path for you at your level would be to go to that school and then um, kind of guide you through the different steps that you can take within your career. Is it that something that they provide, like for example, giving you advice on based on your level, which are the team you should probably contact, or things like that?
Um, no, they put relatively no limit on what you go for. Honestly, they think the time is right always, and if I wanted to say tomorrow I wanted to join Gen G, they'll hit up Gen G even though they don't have a roster spot. They'll hit them up for when that time does come. So I guess you could say they're really open to anything. But I do think it's really important for players to understand that you're not always ready. Don't expose yourself before you're ready, because when that time comes, if they come sooner than you expect and you're not ready and you get that opportunity and you fumble it, you won't get it again. I know that for a fact. There's been times where my friends have tried out with a org and they've uh, did horrible in their tryout, and they either let it tear them apart and they go downhill, or they bounce back from it and they go to another org. But like I said, don't rush anything. What's meant will come to you in esports. That way you don't ruin it for yourself, I guess you could say.
Cool. And so just to follow up on that, I think it would be like I'm thinking of me when I was kid, and I had this mindset where I like, okay, I can do it, and I'm ready. Obviously, I was not, but I didn't know. Is there any way nowadays that players can understand at which stage they are of their journey, and they can tell now I'm ready for a tier 2 or go a tier 1 or
Watch professional play. Watch tier 2 play. Um, I think the biggest thing for me, I watch a lot, excuse me, a lot of FNS from Envy. I watch a lot of their matches and how he does things and what they do based off movements of the other team. If you see 3 cat, a lot of the times Envy likes to call cancel cat and go fast up mid for a D split. So I think watching professional play, if you can't, uh, I don't really know how to say it, but if you're an IGL and you can't watch a pro match and predict what that team's next move is going to be, you're not ready to go pro, in my opinion. Because if you can't think at that same level as them while watching them, while you have all the information on your screen, how are you going to do it when you don't have the information, like when you can't see where the other team actually is? But watching tier 2 play, that doesn't really apply, because tier 2 is a lot more puggy in a sense. So therefore, I think if you want to find out whether you're tier 2 or below, you just need to watch and see like the clutch, like if someone's in a clutch with the play that they make, if you would have made that play, or that aim fight that you wanted to take a long, don't take it unless it's smart, obviously. It's just all about making the right decision in tier 2 and being able to, you don't even have to have the best aim, you just have to be more disciplined than the other team.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that's really good advice. I think it's very similar to other sports, right? Well, two sports where if you need to know where you're at, you need to go watch the player and really evaluate yourself and see if you see a pro and you're an up and coming college player, what do they do different to you and how do you apply that? I wanted to kind of start wrapping things up and ask you a question around the esports industry as a player. And if you were an esports god and you had unlimited powers, what would you do? First thing you do to change the industry to help players?
um I would make it less gate kept, honestly. I think the pro scene is very, very gate kept in a lot of games. Valorant has somewhat of an exception, but like you said, everyone has their cults. There's players in the tier 2 scene right now that are better than certain players that are getting bought out to go to these teams, but nobody's looking down here, and that's simply because there's players on that team going like, I don't want to say their names, but for example, there was one player specifically in the pro scene in Valorant where he basically, I know for a fact, he told his org, like, yeah, we have an open spot, get that guy, buy that guy out. I want to play with him again. And they will do that to make their players happy. They'll buy out whoever they have to make sure their team finds success. When in reality, if they just took a little bit more time and they didn't jump on the first thing that one of their players told them, they probably could have found a really good hidden talent within the lower ranks of Valorant.
Yeah, and I think we kind of touched on this off screen before we started going into the full interview, is that as things evolve, I think that professional approach will start to apply where organizations will start looking at this in a very different way. The same way, I mean, your experience in baseball, you'd understand that at a professional level, they buy players based on what they bring to the team and what they can execute, not just on who they're mates with. So yeah, it's a really good point. I think that's really cool that you highlighted that. But for anyone out there who wants to get in contact with you, how can they reach out to you?
Probably my Twitter, honestly. ITZ Boltzy on Twitter. That's probably the best way. I'm always on there. It's my most used platform right now.
Yeah, awesome. Well, mate, I wish you the best of luck. I hope that over the next 6 months you can really push on and find that avenue to push the family business away for a little bit longer and find your dream. I really appreciate you coming on and having a chat to us. It's really important to have players kind of around your age group get this information out there for younger guys and younger girls coming through. So really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It was fun, for sure.
Thank you.